Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of What a Week That Was. It's the 4th of March, which is always a good thing, 4th of March, because it's better than the 3rd of March. Because it's nearer spring, that's the main reason. Anyway, there's a lot going on this week, not all of it good, in fact most of it isn't good at all. It's quite depressing this week. So we are going to have a chat. Don't forget to debate, don't forget to join in, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, share, all the usual bits and pieces, and we will debate what's been going on in the news this week. Obviously the main story is coming up, but even though I'm not a follower of a lot of sports, it was a sad day today because Shane Warne, it was announced, had passed away. And he's actually younger than I am, which is a bit worrying. So yeah, cricketer. It's one of them people who I kind of knew about when for years really, to be fair. He's been around, it feels like forever, but apparently it's only since like 1991, which is still quite a long while, I'll be honest with you. But either way, it was a character, and he always looked like he was, enjoying himself and having fun. And let's be honest, we could do with some of that at the moment, because everyone's favourite Bond villain is, of course, in the news. Vladimir Putin, his invasion of Ukraine is going ahead, not the way he wanted it to go ahead. It's got to be said. In fact, it's going very badly, considering the army they've got. I think he thought that he'd go into Ukraine and all the people of Ukraine would be waving Russian flags. I'm very happy to see them. He also knew that their army was a fairly small army. They only had somewhere in the region of about 100,000, including the reserves. Aitov, Trevor, and it's Jules. What he forgot was the entire population dislike him. So instead of having 100,000 people against him, he has got millions of people against him. Doesn't stop him though from what I consider to be war crimes. For example, shelling a block of flats, apartments with no military targets there whatsoever. Amazingly, the thing stood up. So some fantastic architecture there, and some fantastic building as well. Wasn't just there though, it was also these flats that got blown up. There was a famous picture of a lady who'd been caught up in the blast. This isn't it, but it's another one from the same roll of film, so to speak. Yeah, basically the guy has gone bonkers, and we don't know why. Well, we do know why. A lot of people are thinking it's because he's 70 now, and they think he might be trying to get his legacy. He wants to be remembered by the Soviets for the future as this great war leader and this great person who kind of brought back the USSR. So, get Ukraine, because that'd be the easy one to get, and then get the other ones before he moves on. And his legacy will be there forever, and the people will remember him like Lenin and Brezhnev and the other ones who I can't remember because I'm not Russian. But he will be remembered like Hitler. So yeah, well done Putin. You've made a complete arse of yourself again. So there is a hero out of all this, and that is another Vladimir, the president of Ukraine, who, the story goes that he was a comedian. He then did a kind of sitcom type thing where he was an actor who somehow become president on this TV show, and then he becomes a president in real life after the TV show. And now he's like, why can't Boris be like this guy? Why can't Boris be as macho and really, really well presented as this Vladimir. I will say his surname, but I'll be honest, I just insult him. I know I won't want to do that because he'd probably come round and bash me head in, and I deserve it. I'll be honest, if I got his name wrong. But no, this guy is. What was it? Someone said there are a few things you can see from space that are to do with the human race. There is the pyramids, although I'm not sure about that one. I'll be honest. But definitely the Great Wall of China. And a few other bits and pieces, and this man's kahunas, because this man's kahunas bust me massive. Because let's be honest, who's going to take on Russia and actually get away with it? Well, this guy, and hopefully he will get away with it. And already, for me, he's the hero of the year. This guy should get a knighthood, even though we can't knight them because, well, he's Ukrainian and we're British. But we should knight him, definitely. Boris, now we all remember old Boris boy, he's been in the news recently, and he filmed a video, which nothing unusual about that. Boris films lots of videos, but the video he filmed was him actually talking to the Ukrainians and the Russians, and he did it in their language. Now if you haven't seen the video, it's amazing. The Ukrainian is obviously easier than the Russian, although the Russian bit was a lot longer, because the Ukrainian one, you could tell, was filmed while he was sat in the position he was talking in English, whereas the Russian one, he was in a different part of the building. So it was obviously, one of them things, right, well, try it again, Boris. Right, now this is what you say. But even had the expressions of the kind of thing that he was doing, and it was brilliant. I was well impressed. I mean, let's be honest, Boris has been Prime Minister where I think no Prime Minister in history has had as many bad things happen, completely different bad things happen, than what Boris has had since he became Prime Minister. I mean, it's just, what a time to actually be Prime Minister and think, you know what, Kushti, look at all the last Prime Ministers, nothing really happening in the world, and then wallop. Obviously Brexit, then you've got the COVID, and then you've got Russia being invaded, or then you've got the oil crisis, the energy crisis, which is worldwide, nothing to do with Europe. So yeah, it's just like one thing after another. And okay, he's a bumbling idiot, but he's a bumbling idiot, and he's not done a bad job. He just messes up every now and then, but that's because he's a bumbling idiot. But who else would have coped with all this that's gone on without completely being an idiot? I mean, can you imagine the general election we had last time? You had Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson. I mean, neither of them were particularly electable, but I think the great British public must have known what was coming, because we definitely chose the right one of the two. Can you imagine Jeremy Corbyn being Prime Minister when Russia's invading Ukraine? Oh my word, that would have been an interesting... yeah, I don't think there'd be many sanctions. Anyway, he's had a bad do. Yes, Paul. He has stayed in Ukraine while the wimp is back in Russia. Yeah, that's true. You won't be getting any sightings of Vladimir Putin anywhere near Ukraine at the moment. But no, it's all good. Unless, of course, well, yeah, this is where it gets complicated, because we're doing sanctions. Now, I agree with some sanctions. For example, the what they call them, the oligarchs, which are basically the people who suck up to Putin and give him lots of money, and he gives them lots of money and makes them very rich so that they can buy yachts like this one, which is worth, if it's the one I'm thinking of, something like 17 million pounds or something stupid. In rubles, it'd be like 15 trillion zillion billion gazillion, because rubles at the moment, 1 ruble is worth less than a cent apparently. But yeah, all these massive ships, and they've all been impounded because it's Russian money and it's dirty money, and that's what we've done around the world. In France and Germany, they've caught some of these yachts, and in Britain we've taken control of the assets, including $1 million apartments, multi-million-dollar homes, and all this kind of thing. And hola. So yeah, we're doing the right thing, but what else can we do? That's the problem. But these oligarchs, these people who do suck up to Putin, are always there with Putin, shaking his hand and having pictures taken with him and taking him on day trips somewhere where he can ride a horse bare-chested and all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't get me showing my chest on the telly. But other Russians are actually, I think, ashamed, unless they think something's coming to them. I give you Roman Abramovich, the current, but not for long, owner of Chelsea Football Club, a multi-billionaire, who's, to be fair, has done well with Chelsea. He's looked after them. He's done a lot better than our Chinese Wigan owner did anyway. And they've become really, really famous. Earlier on in the week, he decided to sign over the control of Chelsea Football Club to some kind of weird members charity thing, which I didn't understand. But by now, he's decided that the best thing to do is sell it. So if you want to buy Chelsea, you can probably get it. If you're selling it in rubles, I think a fiver might cover it. But anyway, I think he's doing the right thing. But then again, he might know something that we don't, which means, you know, he might be up for sanctions soon. And then you've got the Grand Prix. Now, this is a Russian Grand Prix track, which, to be fair, is one of my favourites when I'm playing F1 on the PlayStation or the Xbox. It's a really cool track. And I also remember the race that Vettel got punted off, not once but twice, and I think it was by Max Verstappen as well, on the same lap, and ended up in the wall, which was hilarious. But now the contract to have the Grand Prix in Russia has been completely terminated. It's not just a case of we are not doing $3 billion for Chelsea. Yeah, okay then. We're not just doing this year's race has been cancelled. It's all the races. There'll be no more Russian no more Russian Grand Prix ever. That's it. Done. Unless, of course, Putin suddenly ends up with a bullet in his head or something. I don't know. And people think Russia's great, in which case it'll be back on again in 2 years. Now, I agree with all that. What I don't agree with is people who are not associated in any way, i.e. regular people who are Russian, being punished. I say regular, I use the term very loosely. Mazipen, F1 driver for Haas, no more, has been let go. Now, admitted, he did bring a lot of money in, because, let's be honest, he wasn't the best driver ever. But I don't think Putin invading Ukraine is a reason for him to lose his job. You know, being not very good at driving or something similar is a good enough reason to lose an F1 thing. But you can't help what your leaders are doing. I mean, you know, if we took the same principle, we'd all be fired because Boris is a bumbling idiot. And it just doesn't work like that. You're a bit slow there, Paul, if you listened carefully. So yeah, I think he's a fall guy, which I think's sad. But what's even sadder is the Paralympics are on in China. I mean, don't get me started on China. We all know what I think of China at the minute. And the Russian team, this isn't the Russian team, this is a Chinese team, but the Russian team were going to go to China along with the Belarus team, which is very closely affiliated with Russia at the minute, and compete. Now, these athletes have been training for years and years and years. They're all clean. They've all had, you know, no doping or anything like that. None of them know, as far as I know, Putin personally, but now they're being punished as well. And again, I don't agree with it. You can't be held responsible for something that your leader does. And these people, some of them people, may never ever have another opportunity to compete in massive sport. And I just... They dilly-dallied with it as well, which is annoying. It was like yesterday. It was like, no, we can't let them compete. Oh, and then, okay, we'll let them compete, but... Sorry, it's just something by my head then. We'll let them compete, but they have to compete under the Paralympic flag and if they win any medals, there'll be no Russian or Belarus anthem and blah blah blah. And you're like, okay, fair enough. And then today it's like, oh no, we're bound to the pressure. We can't let them, so we're gonna kick them out. They're already there. Things started today, so these athletes have been clean. They're gone to China, and they've been kicked out of the Olympics. And I'm like, it's just not on. It's just not on. It's not their fault that Putin is a murderous swine. Oh, it's a war, by the way, Putin, if you're watching. You've just banned the word war, haven't you, from anyone saying that it's a war. Well, it's a war. Although it's technically not a war, because a war is when two armies actually kind of, do that for something. This is an invasion, and they are defending themselves. So technically, it's not a war. It's an invasion, which is worse than a war, I think. Either way, the end result is the same. People are dying unnecessarily. So, if you want to comment on that, you feel free. That's what the comments are for, the chat, and I'll read out your comments. But we'll keep going, because there is another thing I want to discuss. And if you live in Greater Manchester, it's the local constabulary, Greater Manchester Police. They've been on special measures because they are crap. But apparently they're improving. Well, apparently 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, they got discovered for just not actually bothering looking at things that had happened. For example, burglaries or anything like that. Which was ironic because I got burgled by a lowlife whom I tried to help. Allegedly. I let them stay with me for a while and blah, blah, blah. And next thing I know, we have a fallout because he's selling drugs from my house. So I kick him out, and within 2 weeks, on a day he knew I was out, in the middle of the afternoon, I get hammered through the window, and the door is opened, the window is opened, because he knew I didn't lock the windows. I do now, obviously. Broke in and stole items from the house, and left items which he knew he couldn't sell because they weren't working. So I rang the police and said, right, this is what's happened, I've been robbed, blah, blah, blah. There was a fingerprint inside the double glazing, so you got, that's the gap in the middle of the double glazing. There was fingerprints inside the double glazing. So I said, there's fingerprints inside the double glazing, but I can tell you it is. I can tell you where they're living now, where they've sold the items that they've stolen, and, all the relevant details. So, to be fair, they sent a scene of crimes officer out, who dutifully, dusted the window for fingerprints. And I pointed out that the person had lived with me, so any fingerprints that were on the outside of the glass would be irrelevant. It's the fingers on the inside of the double glazing, the fingerprints on the inside of the double glazing, which are probably the ones, because the glass wasn't broke until they broke it to break in. And he said, yeah, you got a good point there. So he's doing all this, taking pictures and peeling them off and putting them in his little book and doing all this kind of stuff. He must have been here for nearly 2 hours. So I thought, well, this is good. Never heard anything afterwards. At all. Nothing. F all. Basically, they just swept it under the carpet. I rang them up about 3 weeks later and said, what's going on? And they said, we're still continuing the investigation. And I'm like, well, I told you did it, where they sold the stuff and everything. So why haven't you done anything? And yeah, it put me on a mental health stress. Because I thought, if I tell them who it is, and they can't be asked doing it, then what happens if someone gets you if you don't know who it is? And I feel for, other people who have... I mean, it was okay, it was only burglary. I get that. It wasn't a murder or anything. But, I mean, people who get attacked, people who get assaulted in various ways, things like that. Everyone deserves to have, a police that at least try and look into it. I mean, I would have thought this one would have been an easy tick, because they're all monitored now, aren't they? On, how many results you get from your crimes reported. And I got a crime number and everything, so they reported it, but they never solved it. Or if they did, they never told me. It was baffling. It was very baffling indeed. However, there is something that's even more baffling. In fact, this guy is as baffled as the rest of us. Do you know who that is? Do you know who that is? It's Gavin Williamson. He used to be the Education Secretary during the pandemic. Biggest piece of wet lettuce you've ever seen. And then he had another job within the cabinet, and he got kicked out from that. Basically, he's known in the trade as a useless twonk. 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 He's a twonk. Completely and utterly inept. He's featured on many of my comments on my vlogs that I've done, particularly through lockdown, because he just comes out with some right tripe. Anyway, the guy's been knighted. What the hell? I mean, yeah, I suppose Boris is going to get made into a bloody saint because he's inept as well, in many degrees. More inept than this guy. But how can you get knighted when you're completely useless at doing what you're supposed to do and getting paid good money for it as well? Absolute joke. Even he's confused. On the picture you can see, he's like, what, me? What? Me? I've got knighted? Knighted? I don't even know what knighted is. I don't even know what that is. Does that mean I have to wear a horse and ride on armour or something? Because he's that stupid to get it the wrong way around. How the hell he got Education Secretary, I'll never know. It is very, very baffling indeed. And very, very worrying on many levels. One of the most worrying things that's happened in the last 24 hours was I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning. I mean, that's not a worrying thing. It's normal at the minute because of stress at work and everything. But I just had a quick look at my phone, and the phone said, well, it didn't say, Twitter said, that the Russians, we're back to them again, were actually firing at a nuclear power station. Not just any nuclear power station, one of the biggest nuclear power stations on the planet, with rockets and armours and stuff. And it's on fire. And you're like, what? And if it goes off and it blows up, it's going to be, I can't remember, it was 4 times or 10 times worse than Chernobyl. I imagine it's going to be probably nearer 10, because this is an actual damage coming from the outside rather than something happening inside the reactor. And you're like, how can you even comprehend firing anything at a nuclear power station? I mean, you're there anyway. You are physically within... If you can fire something at a nuclear power station, you are near that nuclear power station. Because that's how it works in this war. So if you blow it up, you're dead. What is going on? Putin. Hang on, we've got some more writing. Saint Boris. Hey, did you know who Jimmy O was? Jigger Oker is? Yeah, I know Jimmy O is. LOL. They're clever. Well, they are very clever. Anyway, thankfully, they didn't blow it up. That's going a bit fast behind me, isn't it? Jeez, that's better. Thankfully, they didn't blow it up. It was just one of the buildings. But at the time, because it was dark, obviously, no one knew what was going on. And there was just this massive fire going on at this power station, which is massive. And it's in Ukraine, which is where Chernobyl is. That's in Ukraine as well, although at the time it was still Russian-owned. So, yeah, absolutely insane. I mean, you know, we've got enough problems as it is with, global warming, which ironically ended up making news this week because we reckon, or they reckon, that we can do 1.5 C world rise of temperature with greenhouse gases and everything will be as good as it is now. We've already gone too far to take things back to where they were. But the obvious argument is, of course, that, yeah, okay, mankind is affecting the climate, but the climate has changed over millennia for millions of years. It's what it does. You have these massive heat wave things, and then you have ice ages. I mean, the whole of the UK was, in ice. That's why you've got U-shaped valleys all over the UK, because ice gives you, because it's so flat and it kind of gouges out, it gives you a U-shaped valley rather than a V-shaped valley, because the water is narrower, whereas the ice collects up and builds, and that's what makes a U-shape. Who thought you'd be having a bloody geography lesson about, well, geology, whilst you were watching something about the news? But anyway, the climate changes basically all the time. And yes, it's probably accelerating at the minute, and I don't think that anything that the UK do is going to make a jot of difference. I think we could all have coal fires installed in our houses and just burn coal and have diesel engines, and it wouldn't make a jot of difference because we're too small. What we need to do is, if we need to stop it, we need to... China. Hello. They sort them out. India. Well, a lot of the up-and-coming countries, they're the ones who are causing most of this now. And then obviously, we're on about Putin being an idiot. Well, what about the president of Brazil, who's actively encouraging that his people chop down the Amazon rainforest? Yeah, brilliant. Well done. So yeah, global warming is an issue, but it's happened before. It'll happen again. Even if humanity disappears, which it may do. I take you back to Vladimir Putin. But if humanity disappears, or even if there's no life on Earth, the climate will still change, because that's what it's done forever. We've only been on the planet for, if it was a 24-hour clock, from when the Earth was formed to when man came on the planet for the first time. So you started off at midnight, then it takes you right through to now being midnight again. So the beginning is midnight, so let's call it midnight on Monday, and we're now at midnight on Tuesday, and that's the entire life of the Earth. Man only appeared about 2 minutes to midnight, and only became maybe where we are now with technology and stuff like that, even in the 1800s, whatever, at like a second before midnight. But for that entire 24 hours of the entire life of the planet, the climate has changed a lot. We've got proof of it. You can tell with the rocks. You can tell, like I say, with the valleys. You can tell with ice packs when you drill down. It's just a natural event. It happens. We are affecting it maybe, but it happens anyway. So what we need to do is we need to stop it. We need to talk to the big companies, big thingies. It's not the 24th, it's the 4th of March. Oh, that's because I had a 4 in it, yeah. No, it's not a rocket, DC number 9. There were tanks and soldiers shooting at the thingamabob. That's why they've took it now, because I think the Ukrainians just ran away, probably thinking they were going to blow it up. Tell you, the funniest TV I watched this week, and can't watch it anymore now because it's been taken off, was hilarious, and it was Russia Today. Now, I'm all into free speech and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's good, and I think it's valuable, and I think people are allowed to have their own say on stuff. That's what democracy is, that's what a free country is. Russia Today, however, I watched it on Tuesday because it had been banned in Europe, so I thought, I wonder if we still watch it here, and I watched it for about 20 minutes. And basically, what they were saying as a news channel was that Ukraine was full of Nazis who needed to be eliminated because they were risking the sovereignty of Russia. The Ukrainians were blowing up their own people. The Ukrainians were using their people as human shields, and the Ukraine's president was unhinged. And I'm like, you've kind of got that right. Exactly, bob on right. Apart from the fact you've used the word Ukraine instead of Russia. And yeah, it was, I mean, we criticised the BBC and Sky and ITV and all that over here, and certainly CNN and Fox News in America for being loose with the truth. But RT, yeah, it's been took off the TV channels now and in Britain, and rightly so, because there are people who believe this stuff, and that's what scares me. I know people say, well, you believe what the BBC and everyone else says, but I tend to believe channels that are not owned by the state, which is currently invading another country for no reason whatsoever. Call me old-fashioned. So, yeah, there you go. No, nothing's coming to the shop this week. But, yeah, it's just a weird world that we're living in. And what worries me is the fact that people are thinking this is normal because we've had COVID and the new normal and everything. But as long as he's around, the world won't be normal. I don't mean, you know, necessarily... He doesn't look well in that picture, actually. He looks quite ill. I didn't notice that before. So we can make it a bit bigger. There you go. It doesn't look like a well man. That doesn't look like a man who's happy with what's going on at the moment. Whoops. That is a bizarre picture, and that's what they put out. That's weird. Anyway, that's just freaked me out a lot. I don't know quite what is going on there. Anyway, don't forget, you can join in the chat as well, as long as you talk sensibly. Have we done anything else? So what have we got? We've done Boris talking in Russian. We've done Russian Today, Roma Ivanovic selling Chelsea. Oh yeah, going back to the global warming. Apparently, according to the report, 40% of the entire population will be permanently affected by global warming. I would imagine 100% of the entire population will be affected by global warming, particularly if a lot of the 40% that's affected by global warming produces food for the rest of us, then it's going to affect everyone, isn't it? So, anyway, weird. Chelsea going, yacht seized, Greater Manchester Police being rubbish, and Gary Williamson being knighted. Yeah, I think we've got everything. He's 70, which is a spring chicken compared to Biden, who confused Iran and Ukraine. He did. Bless. Oh, bless. It's nice, though, that they give the old fogies a chance, isn't it? I mean, not Putin, but I mean Biden. You know, he should be in a retirement home, really, shouldn't he? Doing a jigsaw or something, watching Neighbours on the telly while he can. But no, he's running the country. He's running the world, in fact, which is a bit more worrying. And yeah, he gets Iran and Ukraine mixed up. So let's try it. So yeah, the war in Ukraine is terrible. It's really bad, and yeah, the war in Iran is, no, I can't do it. It's the two. Yeah, you could get away with Iraq and Iran, but you can't get away with Iran and Ukraine. Getting them mixed up. I'm sorry. No, Biden's better than the Orange Man. There is that, Mr. Dancing Around in his Underpants Man. But the way I look at it is, as long as Ukraine have got this guy, I think the world's a safe place. I'm not running the show. It's more like a weekend at Bernie's situation. He's not running the show. Oh, right, okay, I get that. Could be worse, could be Trump. Yeah, that's the Orange Man, as we were referring to Jimmy. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of joy at the moment, is there? It's just like misery, misery, misery. And, you know, it's all gone quiet on COVID because everyone's panicking about this war. Invasion, sorry. But COVID's still there. People with COVID are now legally allowed to walk around with the rest of us without a mask on and not tell anyone. I mean, but, you know, talk about bumbling Boris. Yeah, it didn't really work that, did it? Nice try. That completely threw me though, what I was going to say next. But anyway, yeah, you've been very quiet again today, actually, which is a bit worrying. Last week you were very talkative, you lot. But today you're very quiet. I'm very well, but we're very serious today. We're talking about war and stuff, which is very sad. Thanks. But yeah, I'm alright. Hope you're good as well. Oh, there's that picture. I forgot that picture. That's the one picture I've not shown yet. I mean, this is not Aleppo. This is Ukraine. But the thing is, and this is what I can't understand, why this is different to Aleppo, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Yemen. It's horrific, and the world's gone ape about this, and rightly so. But shouldn't we be going ape with all these other countries as well? You know, we've got to treat everyone the same. That's what I say. Interesting fact, that. I never even thought of that, but there you go. Because there's still people being killed in Yemen all the time. You don't hear about that anymore. It's like the news, you know, they get bored. Oh, let's. I mean, even before this invasion, we didn't hear about places like that anymore, which is very sad. Very sad indeed. Let's end on something that's a bit happier. The Winter Olympics, Paralympics even, have started. And generally, the United Kingdom is better at the Paralympics than we are at the actual Winter Olympics, which I find hilarious. It just kind of shows that, you know, I don't know what it shows us. It just shows that disabled people are better than able-bodied people, I suppose. Yeah, it is PR, you're right. Luftwaffe bomb London, it's called terror bombing, and we do far more bombing to Germany, and it's called tactical. But I mean, things were different then. It was World War II, and the weapons were not as advanced as they are now. There is absolutely no need now to carpet bomb anywhere, particularly with civilians. I mean, you know, they're on about war crimes and Putin, who could be dragged up for war crimes, and again, rightly so. He just seems to think that he can do what he wants and get away with it, and just sit there behind his desk, his small desk with his really old phones, as they pointed out on the last leg. If you look at that phone there. That's like one your nan had in 1989, and who has one of them things anymore with a little screen on it, little LED screen? It's very peculiar. It is a very odd thing. So I'm trying to catch up with what you're writing, but you're not writing a lot, so I keep reading it over and over again. It is very, very peculiar, and it's one of them things where you have to find out what is his end game, what is he trying to do, what is it that he wants, and the only thing we can come up with generally is if he wants the USSR back, because he was in the KGB when he was a younger man, and he's never really taken to this thing, and he's clung on to power, hasn't he? I mean, fair play to him. You can only do 8 years as president, so he does 8 years as president, installs a plastic guy, pretty much, as president for the next 8 years, and he becomes prime minister, but basically tells the president what to do, and then becomes president again, because he's a clever guy. Which console are you taking to the bunker with you? Oh, well, I don't think it'd been electricity, so you're probably better off with a handheld. So maybe a Game Boy Advance SP. Oh no, you have to charge them up. So Game Boy Advance, not an SP, because all the games are all right, and you can use batteries, and batteries will be around for a while. But there'll be no electricity, so there's no point taking a big console. And plus, how are you going to take that into a bunker when there aren't any? Because we don't live in Finland or Switzerland or wherever. To put CX out of business. His 40-mile convoys come to a standstill. Here's another thing as well. He's saying, or we're imagining that he's saying that the Ukraine is part of Russia, and the Ukrainians are not Ukrainians, they are Russians, and he doesn't recognise Ukraine as a country. And apparently they speak Russian, or certainly a very strong Russian-based language. And they were part of the USSR, so he's trying to get them back. But you could take that to another level, as I said to someone the other day in the shop. You know, could Italy suddenly decide to invade England and say, well, we ruled you in the Roman times, so technically you're ours. And then, as someone pointed out, couldn't England then go back to all the countries that we domineered back in the day and go, well, you know, in the Middle Ages, we owned you, so we're having you back. Things move on. You know, it's like when you have a relationship with someone and it ends, the worst thing you can do is go back to it, because it's never going to end well. And, well, basically that's what he's doing, and it's not ending well. So maybe there's a lesson there for us. When a relationship breaks down, let it go. Let it go. Because that's the best thing to do. And move on. Okay. So, more control of gas, coal and grain resources. Grain, definitely. Because Ukraine has a lot of grain exports. And I think most of their money comes from grain. But, yeah, that's it, really. So, anyway. I said I'd do 30 minutes. We've done 43. Because it's been quite a busy old week. So we'll leave it there for this week, and then we will see what it's like. Hang on, let's do that again. We'll leave it there for this week. I'm not leaving that picture there. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving that picture there. I'm going to change that picture because that picture is horrendous. There you go. Let's have a proper hero as a picture. Yeah, one way to cut down on carbs. Anyway, that's it. I don't think it was as good as last week, I'll be honest. But anyway, it's war. I mean, war isn't a nice thing, is it? Sorry, invasion. Anyway, thanks for watching, if indeed you still are. And I will see you again next week to see what a week that was. Yes. Until then, bye.